I was in Tokyo closing a multi-million-dollar deal when my phone buzzed. An email from my parents. Daryl, we sold your beach house to help Natalie with her gambling debts. The new owners move in next week. You didn't need it anyway. Right. You're always traveling. My stomach dropped. That villa in Malibu took me 12 years of 60-hour weeks to afford. My sanctuary. My dream. Gone with a casual email. Before I tell you how my life turned upside down, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about family betrayal that will make your jaw drop. Growing up, I always knew I was second best in my parents' eyes. My sister Natalie was the golden child, beautiful, charming, and constantly in need of rescue. Meanwhile, I was the reliable one, the one who would figure things out on my own. When I graduated high school with honors, my parents skipped the ceremony for Natalie's dance recital. When I got into community college on a partial scholarship, they barely noticed. Daryl, you know your sister needs more attention, my mother would say, whenever I expressed disappointment. You're so independent. That independence became my superpower. I worked 2 jobs through community college, transferred to UCLA, and graduated with a degree in computer science. While Natalie dropped out of 3 different colleges, I landed an entry-level position at a tech consulting firm and climbed the ladder through sheer determination. By 35, I was a senior consultant handling international accounts. My specialty was bridging American tech innovation with Asian markets, a niche that made me valuable enough to name my price. After 12 years of saving, investing, and occasional lucky stock picks, I finally had enough for the down payment on my dream, a modest but beautiful seaside villa in Malibu with panoramic ocean views. That house represented everything I'd worked for. I'd chosen every fixture, picked every paint color, the massive windows that let me watch the sunset from my living room, the small office where I could work while listening to waves crash against the shore. It wasn't just a house. It was the tangible proof that I'd made it despite my parents' neglect. Meanwhile, my parents struggled financially. Dad's small accounting practice barely kept them afloat, and they'd remortgaged their suburban home twice. I helped when I could, paying off their credit card debt once and covering 3 months of mortgage payments during a rough patch. I never mentioned these contributions to Natalie. My sister's gambling problem started in college with poker nights. By 30, she was regularly visiting casinos in Vegas and taking mysterious weekend trips. Twice, she called me desperate for money to pay rent that I later discovered went to bookies. After the second time, I refused to give her cash directly, offering instead to pay her landlord or buy her groceries. She stopped asking after that. The Tokyo trip was supposed to be my career masterpiece. I had spent months cultivating relationships with Tanaka Industries, a Japanese tech giant looking to expand into American markets. If I closed this deal, my firm would give me a partnership. The negotiations required my physical presence. Japanese business culture values face-to-face meetings and relationship building. For 2 weeks, I immersed myself in the delicate dance of Japanese corporate politics. 14-hour workdays, followed by business dinners, where real progress happened over sake, and carefully crafted small talk. I learned enough Japanese to show respect, studied their company history, to drop meaningful references, and carefully navigated the complex hierarchy of executives. The pressure was immense. My boss had made it clear, close this deal, Daryl, and you'll make partner. Lose it, and we'll need to reevaluate your future with the firm. I knew what that meant. Success or unemployment. So I did something I'd never done before. I went dark on personal communications. I silenced family notifications, ignored social media, and focused exclusively on work. My personal phone stayed in my hotel room while I carried my work phone to meetings. The strategy was working. The Japanese executives were warming to me, and we were making progress. On day 12, during a rare 15-minute break between meetings, I ducked into a quiet hallway of the Tokyo high-rise and quickly checked my personal email. That's when I saw it. A message from my parents' subject line, Villa sold, Natalie's problem solved. I opened it with confusion. There must be some mistake. Dear Daryl, it began casually, as if announcing they'd bought new patio furniture. We wanted to let you know that we sold your beach house last week. Natalie got in deep with some gambling debts, worse than ever before, and we needed to act quickly. The new owners are a lovely couple from San Francisco who paid cash, so everything went through fast. They move in next week, so if there's anything personal you want, let us know and we'll box it up. My knees weakened. I leaned against the hallway wall, reading further in disbelief. We know you might be upset initially, but you're doing so well financially, and you can always buy another house. You didn't need it anyway, right? You're always traveling. Natalie needed this help more than you needed a vacation home you hardly use. Family helps family. Call when you get back from Japan. Love, Mom and Dad. I tried calling immediately, but their phones went straight to voicemail. I sent frantic texts that showed as delivered, but remained unread. In a panic, I called my neighbor in Malibu, who confirmed he'd seen strangers touring my house with a real estate agent last week. It was real. They had actually sold my house. I stumbled back to the conference room where 5 Japanese executives waited, but I couldn't focus. I mumbled something about a family emergency and asked to reschedule. The disapproval was palpable. In Japanese business culture, personal problems should never interfere with professional obligations. I watched months of relationship building crumble as I rushed out to book the first flight home. The 14-hour flight from Tokyo to Los Angeles was the longest of my life. I alternated between rage, disbelief, and panic. How could they have sold my house? They weren't on the deed. They didn't have power of attorney. It had to be illegal. I paid for in-flight Wi-Fi and researched real estate law until my laptop battery died. The only conclusion I could draw was that they must have committed fraud, forged signatures, falsified documents, something criminal. The realization that my own parents would commit felony fraud against me made me physically ill. I spent 20 minutes in the tiny airplane bathroom, splashing water on my face and trying not to vomit. As the plane crossed, the Pacific memories of my villa flooded my mind. The housewarming party, where I'd finally felt proud enough to invite colleagues over, morning coffees on the deck, watching dolphins play in the distance, the guest room I'd prepared for my parents, though they'd only visited once, claiming the drive was too long from their suburban home. I had bought that property in an exclusive neighborhood where I never quite felt I belonged. The neighbor on one side was a film producer who threw loud parties. The neighbor on the other side was old money who barely acknowledged my existence. But it was mine, proof that a kid who started with nothing could build something beautiful. By the time we landed at LAX, I'd left 17 voicemails for my parents and sent 32 increasingly desperate texts. No response. I grabbed my carry-on, left my checked luggage behind, and rented the first available car. The drive to Malibu took longer than usual. Friday afternoon traffic crawled along the Pacific Coast Highway as my anxiety mounted. When I finally turned onto my street, the sight of moving trucks in my driveway made my heart sink. I parked haphazardly and ran to my front door, or what used to be my front door. A middle-aged couple, supervised as movers, carried sleek modern furniture inside. My key still worked in the lock, and I pushed inside past a startled mover. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" A woman with an elegant gray bob approached me, confusion on her face. "This is my house," I said, my voice shaking. "I don't know what you think you're doing here, but you need to leave." The husband joined us, placing a protective arm around his wife. "Sir, we purchased this property legally. We have all the paperwork. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Show me," I demanded, and to my surprise, he did. He retrieved a folder from a designer briefcase and spread documents across the kitchen island. My kitchen island, where I'd spent countless mornings making coffee. The paperwork looked legitimate. There was the deed to my property. There were transfer documents, and there, at the bottom of several pages, was what appeared to be my signature, except I hadn't signed anything. "This isn't my signature," I said, pointing to the forgery. "I never sold this house." "I've been in Japan for 2 weeks." The couple exchanged concerned glances. "We purchased this through proper channels," the woman said. "The real estate agent, the title company, everything was legitimate. Your parents facilitated the sale with your power of attorney." "I never gave them power of attorney," I said, my voice rising. "This is fraud. I think you should leave," the husband said firmly. "Or we'll need to call the police." The irony of being threatened with police action for entering my own home wasn't lost on me, but I knew making a scene wouldn't help. I needed to confront the real perpetrators. I drove to my parents' modest ranch house in the valley, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Their car was in the driveway. They were home, just ignoring my calls. I pounded on the front door until my father opened it, his expression a mixture of defiance and guilt. "We wondered when you'd show up," he said, stepping aside to let me in. My mother sat rigidly on their floral couch, hands clasped in her lap. The living room looked exactly as it had throughout my childhood. Outdated, cluttered with knickknacks, family photos where Natalie was always center stage. "How could you do this?" I asked, my voice surprisingly calm, considering the hurricane inside me. "You sold my house. You committed fraud." "We did what we had to do for family," my mother said. Natalie was in trouble. "Where is she?" I looked around. "Where's Natalie?" My parents exchanged glances. "She's staying with friends until things cool down," my father said. "What kind of trouble was worth stealing my house?" I demanded. My mother's chin lifted defiantly. She owes some very dangerous people a lot of money. They were threatening her. "So you stole from me instead of going to the police." "Family helps family," my father repeated the phrase from the email. "Natalie needed help more than you needed a vacation home." "It wasn't a vacation home," I shouted finally, losing my composure. "It was my primary residence. Everything I own is there." "You're never there," my mother countered. "Always traveling for work. Besides, you can afford another house. Natalie's life was in danger. How did you even do it?" "The paperwork. The signatures." My father looked away, but my mother held my gaze. "You left your passport and birth certificate in our safe deposit box years ago. We had access to your identification. And you know your father worked with that notary for years before he retired." The betrayal cut deeper with every revelation. They had planned this meticulously, using my trust against me. "I'm going to the police," I said quietly. "What you did is criminal. It's fraud, identity theft, and grand larceny." My father stood up, his face reddening. "Do that, and you're no longer our son." I laughed without humor. "I stopped being your son the moment you decided to steal my home." As I turned to leave, my mother called after me, "Natalie is family too. She needed us more than you ever did." I closed the door on her words and walked away from the house I grew up in, knowing I would never return. The police station was fluorescent lit and smelled of industrial cleaner. I sat across from Detective Rodriguez, a compact woman with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She took notes as I explained the situation, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "Let me get this straight," she said after I finished. "Your parents sold your house without your knowledge, while you were overseas, forged your signature on legal documents, and used your identification documents to commit fraud." "Yes," I confirmed. "And they did it to pay off my sister's gambling debts." "That's a lot of serious charges," Detective Rodriguez said. "Identity theft, real estate fraud, forgery of legal documents. These aren't misdemeanors. They're felonies that carry prison time." The reality of what this meant hit me. My parents could go to jail. Despite everything, the thought gave me pause. "I understand this is complicated because they're family," Detective Rodriguez said, noticing my hesitation. "But what they did is still criminal." She took my formal statement and made copies of the documents I'd collected from the buyers. As she typed information into the system, she paused. "Your sister, Natalie Walsh. Is she about 5'6", blonde hair, small tattoo on her right wrist?" "Yes," I said, surprised. "You know her. Not personally, but her name's come up in another investigation. We've been looking into an illegal gambling operation. High-stakes poker games, sports betting, that sort of thing. Your sister's name appears in their books. This was worse than I thought. Natalie wasn't just gambling at casinos. She was involved with organized crime." "How much does she owe?" I asked. "Based on what we've seen, north of 800,000. The number stunned me. My villa had sold for just over $2 million. After paying off my mortgage, there would be about $1.5 million left. Natalie's debt would take more than half of that." "Mr. Walsh," Detective Rodriguez said carefully, "your parents may face serious charges. Are you prepared for that?" Could I send my own parents to prison? Despite their betrayal, the thought made me sick. But then I remembered the casual way they dismissed my loss. "You didn't need it anyway, right?" "Yes," I said firmly. "I want to press charges." After leaving the police station, I drove to a hotel near the beach. Not my beach anymore. I sat on the generic bed and stared at the wall, feeling hollowed out. That's when I remembered something that gave me my first glimmer of hope. The security system. 6 months ago, after a break-in at a neighboring property, I had installed a comprehensive security system in my villa. Smart locks, motion sensors, and cameras covering every entrance. The system backed up footage to a cloud server I could access remotely. I opened my laptop with shaking hands and logged into the security company's portal. There it was, footage from the past 3 weeks. I scrolled to the dates, when the sale must have happened, and watched. My parents arriving with a woman I didn't recognize, presumably the real estate agent. The agent looking increasingly uncomfortable as my parents showed her around a house that clearly wasn't theirs. My father presenting documents to her. The agent making phone calls, looking concerned. I watched as different prospective buyers toured my home. Finally, the couple I'd confronted earlier arrived, fell in love with the property, and made an offer. Through it all, the real estate agent appeared hesitant, often stepping away to make calls. She had tried to call me, I realized. Checking my phone, I found 6 missed calls from an unknown number during my time in Japan. The agent had attempted to verify the sale with me, but I had been too focused on my Tokyo deal to notice. I called the security company and explained the situation. They agreed to provide all footage to the police as evidence. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I called the real estate agency listed on the documents. Pacific View. "Realty, how can I help you?" "I need to speak with the agent who handled the sale of 1732 Ocean Drive in Malibu." "That would be Amanda Carter." "One moment." A few minutes later, a professional female voice came on the line. "This is Amanda, Miss Carter. My name is Daryl Walsh. I'm the actual owner of 1732 Ocean Drive, which was fraudulently sold without my knowledge." There was a pause. "Mr. Walsh, I've been trying to reach you for days. I was overseas on business. Can you tell me what happened?" Amanda Carter explained that she'd had reservations about the sale from the beginning. My parents claimed to have power of attorney, but something felt off about the situation. Standard practice when someone is selling through a proxy is to verify with the actual owner, she explained. "I tried calling you multiple times but couldn't reach you. Your parents insisted the sale needed to happen quickly." "What did you do?" I asked. "I followed protocol, but built in safeguards. I insisted on placing most of the funds in escrow for 30 days instead of releasing them immediately. Your parents weren't happy, but I told them it was non-negotiable." My heart raced. "So the money isn't gone. About 75% is still in escrow." "I was planning to try reaching you again tomorrow before releasing the funds." Relief washed over me. "I need that money frozen immediately. This was fraud." "I suspected as much," Amanda said. "I'll contact the escrow company right away." Within an hour, Detective Rodriguez called me. Your real estate agent contacted us, she said. Smart woman. She's provided additional evidence and confirmed the money is secure in escrow. We're obtaining a court order to freeze those funds pending investigation. What happens now? I asked. We've contacted your parents to come in for questioning. They're not answering their phones. I wasn't surprised. They were probably panicking, realizing their plan was falling apart. What I didn't expect was what happened next. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously. Daryl, it's Dad. We need to talk. I think you should speak to Detective Rodriguez, I said coldly. Please, son. We're in trouble. The real estate agent called us. She says the money is frozen and the police are involved. You committed fraud. What did you expect? You don't understand. My father's voice cracked. Natalie owes money to dangerous people. They gave us 3 days to pay or they'd hurt her. We panicked. So you sacrificed me instead. We thought we'd figure something out later, make it up to you somehow. But now these people are expecting payment tomorrow and the money's frozen. They're threatening all of us now. Despite everything, fear for my family crept in. Go to the police, Dad. Tell them everything. These aren't people you can just report to the police. They have connections, an idea formed. Put Mom on the phone. My mother's voice was tearful when she took over. Daryl, please help us. We made a terrible mistake. I need you to admit what you did. Say it clearly, why, because I need to hear you say it. There was a pause. We sold your house without permission, she said finally. We forged your signature and used your identification to complete the sale. We committed fraud. And why did you do it? To help Natalie with her gambling debts. Her voice broke. We thought we were saving her life. We didn't think about what it would do to you. What they didn't know was that Detective Rodriguez was recording the call. She had called me moments before my father's call, and I had put her on hold so she could listen in. Their confession was now evidence. Go to the police station, I told my mother. Detective Rodriguez is expecting you. It's your only option now. After hanging up, I confirmed with the detective that she had recorded everything. That was smart, Mr. Walsh, she said. Their confession will help the case considerably. Will you be able to help with the people threatening my sister? We're already on it. The gambling ring your sister is involved with has been under investigation for months. This might help us finally shut them down. That night, I sat in my hotel room watching the sunset through a window much smaller than the ones in my villa. My phone buzzed with a text from Detective Rodriguez's parents in custody. Sister located and safe. Operation ongoing against gambling ring. Will update tomorrow. I felt empty. I had won in a sense. The sale would be invalidated. Most of my money was safe. The criminals threatening my family would likely be arrested. But I had lost my family in the process, though perhaps I had never really had them to begin with. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings, police interviews, and paperwork. The fraudulent sale of my villa was invalidated, and the disappointed buyers were working with Amanda Carter to find a new property. I felt bad for them. They were innocent victims in all this. My parents were charged with multiple felonies, but accepted a plea deal that included probation instead of prison time contingent on their cooperation in the case against the gambling ring. Natalie was charged with lesser crimes and required to enter a gambling addiction program as part of her plea. I didn't attend any of their court appearances. I had said everything I needed to say. Returning to my villa felt strange. The space that had once been my sanctuary now felt tainted. I walked through the rooms, touching familiar surfaces, looking out at the ocean view that had once brought me so much peace. I knew I needed to reclaim this space, make it mine again. First, I changed every lock and security code. Then I replaced the furniture in the main living areas. Too many memories of my parents sitting on that couch during their one and only visit. I repainted walls, rearranged rooms, and installed an even more comprehensive security system. My boss at the consulting firm was surprisingly understanding, once I explained the situation. The Japanese clients had been offended by my abrupt departure, but not irreparably so. I flew back to Tokyo, offered a sincere apology in their cultural context, and slowly rebuilt the relationship. 6 months later, we closed the deal, smaller than the original proposal, but still significant. The partnership I'd been promised didn't materialize, but I found I cared less about that than I once had. My priorities had shifted. Work was no longer my entire identity. I started seeing a therapist specializing in family trauma. The betrayal had cut deeper than I initially realized. Trust didn't come easily anymore, not even with close friends. I had always kept people at a distance, and now the walls were higher than ever. Family betrayal is particularly devastating. Dr. Livingston told me during one session, "We expect strangers to potentially hurt us, but parents are supposed to protect us. When they do the opposite, it shakes our foundation." Slowly, I began to rebuild. I hosted small gatherings at my reclaimed villa, inviting colleagues who had become friends. I volunteered at a financial literacy program, teaching young adults how to manage money and avoid debt. I even started dating again, though I was careful about how much I shared and how quickly. Most surprisingly, I found myself starting a support group for victims of family financial abuse. It turned out my situation wasn't as unique as I'd thought. Many successful people had stories of family members who felt entitled to their hard-earned money or property. As for my biological family, I maintained my distance. My parents sent letters of apology that felt hollow, still containing subtle justifications for their actions. Natalie called once 6 months into her recovery program. "I'm sorry," she said simply. "I was so deep in addiction that I couldn't see what I was doing to everyone. I never thought they would steal from you to help me, but you accepted the money, knowing where it came from," I pointed out. "Yes," she admitted. "I did, and I can't undo that. I just wanted you to know I'm getting help now." I wished her well, but made no promises about rekindling our relationship. Some betrayals can't be undone with words alone. A year after the incident, I stood on my deck watching the sunset, a ritual I had reclaimed. The ocean stretched before me, vast and unchanging, despite the turmoil of human lives. I felt a peace I hadn't expected to find again. I had learned that success sometimes breeds resentment, even from those who should be proudest of you. I had learned that legal protections are necessary even with family. Most importantly, I had learned that family is defined by actions, not blood. And sometimes the family you choose becomes more valuable than the family you're born into. My home is now truly my sanctuary, not just because of the security system, but because I've finally secured my boundaries. Have you ever had to stand up to family for your own well-being? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Thank you for listening, and remember, protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's essential.